Welcome to World Alert Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Tonight we track a story of unimaginable scale, a catastrophe unfolding in China. Hundreds of dams, once symbols of engineering might, have collapsed. Headlines scream, China's doomsday 300 dams collapse. These aren't just numbers, they represent a terrifying reality for millions. Relentless torrents have swept away homes, roads, entire communities. The full extent of the damage is still unknown. Harrowing images show rivers turned into raging monsters, cities submerged in minutes. Emergency crews are overwhelmed, bridges gone, communication lines down. It's a desperate race to save lives in a landscape violently altered by failed infrastructure. In Chongqing, water levels have surged to dangerous highs, testing the city's defenses. Power outages leave millions in darkness. Water supplies are contaminated, raising fears of disease. This is not just a natural disaster, it's a man-made crisis, the catastrophic failure of a system built on speed and ambition. Over 300 dams and more than 340 hydropower stations have failed. Many were vital to the nation's economic engine. The immediate focus is on the human toll, lives lost, millions displaced. But questions are surfacing. How could this happen? Why did so many fail at once? This is a story about water, power, and the immense risks taken in the pursuit of progress. The world watches as a superpower grapples with disaster. The scale is staggering, the consequences historic. The dream to tame China's mighty rivers has become a nightmare. The nation stands on the brink, its future uncertain. The story of these dams began decades ago with a vision of power and control. Now, that vision is in ruins. To understand today's disaster, we must look back. In the 1990s, China's economy exploded, fueling an insatiable hunger for energy. Hydropower became a strategic priority, seen as the key to industrial growth and poverty reduction. A monumental construction boom began, the Great Dam Rush. The mantra was simple: build, build, build. From the Yangtze to Tibet, no river was off limits. In just decades, China built more dams than the rest of the world combined. Projects that would take years elsewhere were finished in record time. The focus was on speed and quantity, not caution. Tens of thousands of dams, from mega projects to small rural structures, became the backbone of China's energy grid. But this rapid expansion created a fragile, complex system. By 2020, China had nearly 100,000 dams and reservoirs, an almost unbelievable transformation. Rivers that flowed freely for millennia were now segmented and controlled. The network was celebrated as a triumph of engineering. But today, that triumph looks like a tragedy waiting to happen. The dream of power has become a nightmare. The cost of ambition is now painfully clear. Hydropower was sold as China's green solution, a way to fight pollution and climate change. Dams promised clean energy, jobs, and economic growth, especially in poorer provinces. For many remote communities, a new dam meant electricity and hope for a better life. The government framed these projects as essential for balanced development and flood control. Dams were portrayed as shields against the devastating floods that haunt China's history. The vision: clean energy, economic growth, poverty reduction, and flood prevention. This powerful narrative justified the immense cost and scale of construction. Dams became monuments to a new, technologically advanced China. But beneath the surface, deep flaws were concealed. The promise of a green, prosperous future was built on a fragile foundation. Behind the narrative of progress, serious problems emerged. The dam-building frenzy meant corners were cut, planning rushed, standards ignored. Quality control was sacrificed for speed, leaving behind poorly constructed dams. Warnings from engineers and scientists were often silenced. Environmental consequences were devastating. Rivers blocked, sediment trapped, fish migration halted, ecosystems destroyed. Older dams, built with lower standards, were aging and poorly maintained. Thousands were at risk of collapse, but resources for repairs were lacking. The focus stayed on new projects, ignoring the decay of the old. Dams triggered geological instability, even increasing landslides and earthquakes. The promise of clean energy was tarnished by environmental destruction. The Green Dragon left a massive scar on the land. Cracks, literal and metaphorical, grew wider. The stage was set for catastrophe. Unprecedented rainfall triggered the crisis, but dam failures turned it into a national catastrophe. The collapse was a domino effect. One dam's failure overwhelmed the next. Walls of water and debris tore through valleys, submerging towns in minutes. Major cities like Wuhan and Nanjing faced their worst flooding in history. Flood defenses were no match for the sudden, massive surges. Power grids failed, water treatment plants were destroyed, and safe drinking water vanished. Infrastructure damage is almost beyond comprehension. Bridges, highways, and railways gone. The economic heartland is paralyzed, factories flooded, supply chains broken. The cost will be felt for years, not just in destruction, but in economic disruption. Amid chaos, stories of heroism emerge, but the scale is overwhelming. Hospitals are flooded, communication blackouts persist, and millions struggle to survive. The water meant to power the future has destroyed the present. The statistics are staggering. Over 300 dams and 340 hydropower plants have collapsed. These are not minor structures, but vital parts of a complex system. The failures reveal systemic vulnerabilities: rushed construction, poor maintenance, immense pressure on river systems. China had already closed thousands of unsafe dams, but many more remained in disrepair. Each dam was a potential point of failure, and their proximity created the perfect storm for cascading collapse. Instead of flood control, the dams unleashed a far more destructive flood. The human and environmental toll is still being counted. Millions displaced, provinces devastated. Energy security is now in question. The numbers tell a grim story: unprecedented scale of both construction and failure. This is a brutal lesson in unintended consequences. Even before this disaster, China began to reverse its dam-building policy. The government halted and dismantled some projects, recognizing the severe environmental damage. Scientists and environmentalists, once ignored, gained influence. Bans were placed on new dams along major rivers like the Yangtze. In provinces like Sichuan and Yunnan, smaller dams were dismantled to restore river flow. The goal: heal wounded waterways and allow ecosystems to recover. It was a tacit admission of past mistakes. But dismantling dams is costly and complex, and policy shifts were inconsistent. Some regions still pursued new megadams, revealing contradictions. This disaster is the ultimate verdict on those contradictions. The greatest cost has been borne by the people. Dam construction displaced millions, forcing them from ancestral homes with promises of a better life. Many ended up in poor resettlement towns, struggling to adapt. The current disaster has created new suffering atop old wounds. Floods destroyed homes and contaminated water sources, making safe drinking water scarce. Illnesses are spreading, and the promise of development has become a daily struggle for survival. The government's response is tightly controlled, with media focusing on rescue efforts and avoiding accountability. Censorship fuels distrust and fear. The scars are not just physical, they run deep in the social fabric. Displacement, unsafe water, and media restrictions have created a sense of betrayal. The people were promised security and prosperity. Now, they face the ruins of that promise. This tragedy echoes past disasters. Warnings ignored, secrecy prevailing. China's dam collapse is a warning for the world. Many developing countries are now pursuing similar dam-building booms, often with Chinese involvement. Will they learn from China's mistakes or repeat them? The risks, ecological devastation, displacement, catastrophic failure, are global. The collapse of 300 dams should be a wake-up call for governments and financiers everywhere. Nature cannot be endlessly controlled without consequence. The pursuit of growth at all costs leads to fragility and disaster. The world must reflect: are we building a sustainable future or more elaborate disasters? The choice is ours.